That Christmas Eve, I discovered that a mother's love could be weaponized against her. My name is Eleanor Benson. I'm 65 years old, and this is the story I never imagined I would share. It's painful to acknowledge that your own son stood by while you were humiliated on the most sacred night of the year. The memory remains vivid. The distinctive sound of the key turning in the lock from outside. Click. Then came her voice, cold and calculated. I just want my family at the table. Eleanor, you should rest. From behind that locked door, I heard everything. The laughter echoing through the house. The cheerful clinking of wine glasses. The mouth-watering aroma of the turkey I had spent hours preparing that morning. My grandchildren's innocent voices asking for me. And her response, sweet yet deceitful. Grandma's tired, sweetie. She already ate. I sat motionless on the edge of my bed, hands trembling, not from fear, but from barely contained rage, from the crushing weight of humiliation, from a sorrow so profound it defied description. On my nightstand sat a photograph. My son as a small boy, arms wrapped tightly around me on another Christmas, when I was his entire world, when he promised he would always take care of me. I closed my eyes and drew a deep breath. My thoughts drifted to something I had done 3 days earlier, something she didn't know about, something no one knew. But while they toasted with French champagne downstairs, the doorbell rang. Before I reveal what happened that night, you need to understand my journey. You need to know the Eleanor from before, the woman who believed in promises, who thought a mother's love was an indestructible shield. My life was different then. I lived alone in my house, that cozy little home with a yard where my children grew up, where I planted bougainvillea and gardenias each spring, where every Christmas I set up the nativity scene in the living room with the same clay figures my mother had passed down to me. My husband Edward had passed away 2 years prior. Though his absence ached, I had learned to live with it. I maintained my routine, rising early to make fresh coffee, watering the plants, attending church on Sundays. I had friends. I had structure. I had peace. My son Stephen visited every week, sometimes bringing the children. He was always affectionate, always concerned. Mom, are you eating well? Mom, do you need anything? Then one day, he arrived with her. Valerie was tall and elegant, with a smile that seemed almost painted on. She embraced me as though we'd known each other for years. Mom, what a beautiful house. Stephen has told me so much about you. She called me Mom from that very first day. I smiled warmly, offered her coffee and the cheesecake I'd made that morning. She ate delicately, praising every bite. Stephen watched her, mesmerized, and I, naive and hopeful, thought, how wonderful that my son found someone who makes him happy. I didn't see the warning signs, didn't notice how she studied my house, how she touched the furniture with assessing fingers, how she evaluated every corner with calculating eyes. I failed to recognize that she was already sizing up the territory. 6 months later, Stephen arrived with a proposal. Mom, Valerie and I want you to come live with us. At first, it felt like a blessing. Mom, you won't be alone anymore. You'll be with your grandchildren every day. You'll have company. Stephen spoke with such genuine love that I couldn't refuse. I sold my little house. That decision still weighs heavily on my heart, but he insisted so earnestly, and Valerie, perpetually smiling, kept repeating, Mom, it's going to be wonderful. You'll teach us so much. The kids need you. I moved in on a Tuesday in April. I arrived with my suitcases, my photographs, and my precious clay nativity scene wrapped carefully in newspaper. Valerie greeted me with flowers. Welcome to your new home, Mom. The first few months were pleasant. I helped with the children, took them to the park, told them bedtime stories. I prepared dinner. When Valerie came home, exhausted from work, she expressed gratitude. Stephen seemed happy, but then the comments began, small criticisms wrapped in smiles. Mom, don't you think the casserole has a bit too much cinnamon? In my family, we make it differently. Oh, Mom, maybe don't tell the kids those old stories. They frighten them. Eleanor, could you not play the TV so loud? We try to maintain a calm environment here. I apologized. I adjusted my behavior. I tried desperately not to be a bother. One morning, I came downstairs for breakfast and discovered they'd rearranged the living room furniture. My favorite armchair, the one Edward gave me, had been relegated to the basement. It just didn't match the new decor, Mom. I hope you understand. Stephen said nothing. Another afternoon, I searched for my clay nativity scene to clean it. I couldn't find it anywhere. I asked Valerie. Oh, yes, Mom. It took up so much space. I donated it to the church. But don't worry, we bought a new one more modern. A lump formed in my throat. Those figures had been in my family for 3 generations. But I said nothing. I didn't want to cause problems. Then one night during dinner, Valerie dropped a sentence that marked the beginning of the end. Stephen, honey, don't you think your mom would be more comfortable in a home? There are some really nice ones, with people her age, activities, nurses. The fork slipped from my hands and clattered against my plate. Stephen looked at me, and in his eyes I saw something that shattered my soul. Doubt. That night, sleep evaded me. I lay staring at the ceiling of my room, that room Valerie had decorated with neutral colors and minimalist furniture. Nothing of mine. Nothing to remind me of who I was before arriving there. Valerie's words spun through my head like a broken record. Don't you think your mom would be more comfortable in a home? A home. As if I were a piece of outdated furniture that had outlived its usefulness. As if my 65 years had transformed me into a burden. And worst of all, Stephen's look. That doubt. That silence. He didn't defend me, my own son. The boy I had carried in my arms for entire nights when he had a fever. The one I comforted when his dog died. The one who wept on my shoulder the day we buried his father. That same man uttered not a single word in my defense. I rose before dawn and made coffee. Even though I knew Valerie preferred espresso from her Italian machine, I made scrambled eggs and bacon, fresh tortillas. When they descended for breakfast, I smiled. Good morning. I made you breakfast. Valerie surveyed the table with an expression I couldn't quite read. Oh, Mom, what a lovely thought. But you know Stephen is watching his cholesterol, and the kids are gluten intolerant. I've mentioned it several times. She had never mentioned it. Stephen didn't glance up from his phone. Thanks, Mom, but I already had a smoothie. I sat alone and ate what I had prepared. The taste of bacon was bitter in my mouth. Sometimes we trust the wrong people. Have you also been disappointed by someone you loved? Tell me your story in the comments. I want to read it. The following days followed the same pattern. I tried to make myself useful. I did the laundry, but Valerie informed me the machine had a special cycle I didn't understand. I cleaned the living room, but she explained they had a maid who came twice weekly and I shouldn't tire myself. I played with the children, but Valerie would interrupt. Kids, Grandma needs a rest. Go to your homework. Little by little, I began to disappear. I became a ghost in that house. I spent hours confined to my room. I watched television with the volume low so as not to disturb anyone. I read the same books repeatedly. The children stopped knocking on my door. Stephen worked late. And Valerie? Valerie looked at me like someone looks at a problem requiring a solution. One day, while folding my clothes, I found a brochure for senior living homes placed deliberately on my bed. Sunnydale Villa, where your loved one will live with dignity and joy. Red circles marked the prices. Notes in Valerie's handwriting filled the margins. Includes 3 meals, 24-hour nursing. I sat on the bed with the brochure trembling in my hands. And for the first time in months, I cried. I cried for my sold house, my lost nativity scene, my empty days, the loneliness you feel when surrounded by people who no longer see you. But most of all, I cried for my son. Because Stephen had stopped being my son, he was now Valerie's husband. And in that house, she ruled absolutely. That night during dinner, Valerie raised the subject again. Mom, Stephen and I have been exploring options. There's a very nice home in the suburbs. Beautiful gardens, painting workshops, even yoga for seniors. I looked at my son. Stephen, do you truly want me to leave? He wouldn't meet my eyes. Mom, it's not that we want you to leave. We just think you'd be better off. You have more company. Here you just spend all your time alone in your room. I spend all my time alone because no one talks to me. The words escaped before I could stop them. Valerie narrowed her eyes. Mom, I think you're exaggerating. We have always been very respectful toward you. You donated my mother's nativity scene without asking me. Silence descended like a heavy blanket. Stephen cleared his throat uncomfortably. Mom, it's just stuff. It was my stuff. Valerie set her wine glass on the table with a sharp tap. Eleanor, I think you need to understand that this is our house, and Stephen and I make the decisions here. If it bothers you so much, maybe it really is better if we look for other alternatives. I rose from the table without another word. I went upstairs to my room. I closed the door, and in that moment I made a decision. If they were going to treat me as invisible, then I would use that invisibility to my advantage. The next day, while Valerie was out shopping and Stephen at work, I opened my laptop. I searched the number of a lawyer, not just any lawyer, but an old family friend who had known my son since childhood, Ms. Megan Stone. I wrote her an email. Megan, I need your help. I think I am the victim of emotional abuse. I need to document everything before it's too late. Her reply arrived 2 hours later. Eleanor, you can count on me, but I need you to follow my instructions to the letter. And that's how it all began. Miss Stone arrived 3 days later. She rang the bell on a Tuesday afternoon when Valerie was at her Pilates class and Stephen in a business meeting. I opened the door with my heart pounding so violently I thought it would burst from my chest. Megan embraced me, and in that embrace I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Someone saw me. Someone believed me. Eleanor, tell me everything. We sat in the living room. That living room that no longer felt like mine, where my photograph had been replaced with abstract art, where my armchair was gone. I told her everything from the beginning. The sale of my house, the brochure for the home, the poisoned comments, the donation of my nativity scene. Megan listened in silence, taking notes in a black notebook. When I finished, she set the pen on the table and looked at me with a mixture of sadness and determination. Eleanor, what you're experiencing is called psychological elder abuse. It's a crime, but we need proof. Proof? Yes, we need to document everything. Recordings, messages, witnesses, anything that shows a pattern of abuse. I don't know if I can do that. Stephen is my son. I don't want to get him in trouble. Megan took my hands. Eleanor, your son is already in trouble because he's allowing this to happen. And believe me, if you don't put a stop to this now, it will get worse. I've seen cases like this. They end with the senior completely isolated, without resources, without dignity. Her words chill me to the bone. What do I have to do? First, we'll install a small camera in the hallway. Something discreet, just to document if there are more incidents. Second, I want you to start writing everything down. Dates, times, what they said, what happened. And third, she paused, I need you to stay strong. This is going to hurt, but it's necessary. That afternoon, Megan installed a camera the size of a button inside a picture frame in the hallway. From there, it could capture the door to my room and part of the staircase. It records automatically when it detects motion. It has cloud storage. No one can delete the images. When she left, I was alone with a new notebook in my hands. On the first page, I wrote, August 28th, Valerie left a brochure for a nursing home on my bed. She didn't ask if I wanted to go. She just left it there like an order. The next few days felt strange. I continued behaving the same, quiet, submissive, invisible. But now, every hurtful word, every dismissive gesture, every moment of contempt was recorded in my notebook, and on that silent camera no one knew existed. On September 1st, while washing dishes after lunch, I overheard a conversation between Valerie and Stephen in the living room. They didn't see me. I stood with my back to them, hands submerged in soapy water. Honey, we need to talk about your mom. What is it now? I just can't take it anymore. I feel her here all the time like a ghost. It makes me uncomfortable. The kids don't even pay attention to her anymore. And honestly, I feel like this house is too small for 3 generations. Valerie, she's my mom. I know. And that's why I'm asking you to think with your head, not with your guilt. Your mom isn't sick. She doesn't need special care. She can live perfectly well in a home. She could even make friends. Here, she just gets depressed. She gets depressed because you make her feel bad. I froze. Stephen was defending me. But then Valerie changed her tone, her voice becoming soft and manipulative. My love, I have never been rude to your mother. I have always treated her with respect. But you have to understand that this situation is affecting our marriage. I feel invaded in my own home, and the kids need space. Or is your mom more important than your family? Silence. She is my family. No, Stephen, I am your family. Your children are your family. Your mom already did her part. She already raised you. She already did her job. Now it's your turn to live your life. Without burdens. Without burdens. Those 2 words stabbed me in the chest like twin knives. I abandoned the dishes. I went upstairs to my room. I locked the door. And I wrote in my notebook with a trembling hand, September 1st. Valerie told Stephen I am a burden, that their marriage is suffering because of me, that I already did my part. That night during dinner, Stephen looked at me with an expression I couldn't interpret. Mom, we need to talk. Tell me. Valerie and I were thinking. We believe it would be good for you to visit some nursing homes, just to see the options. It's not final. We just want you to see that there are very nice places. Valerie smiled that victorious smile. I took a deep breath. All right, let's visit the homes. They both exchanged surprised glances. Really, Mom? Yes. If you both think it's the best, then let's visit them. Valerie could barely hide her satisfaction. Oh, Mom, I'm so glad you're taking it this way. You'll see, you're going to love it. That night, I sent a message to Megan. They fell into the trap. They want to take me to see the homes. What's next? Her reply came within minutes. Perfect. Agree to go. Document everything. And in the meantime, I'm going to prepare something they won't see coming. As I tell this, I wonder where you might be listening from. Write the name of your city in the comments. The following Saturday, Valerie took me to see 3 homes. Stephen didn't come. He had pending work obligations. At the first home, an 80-year-old woman grabbed my arm and whispered urgently in my ear, Honey, if you can avoid it, don't come here. This isn't life. It's a warehouse for old people. Valerie, walking ahead with the administrator, didn't hear her. At the second home, I saw a man in a wheelchair cry in front of a window. No one even glanced at him. And at the third home, the most expensive, the most elegant, with gardens and fountains and spacious rooms, I witnessed something that shattered my soul. In the dining room sat a woman alone, an untouched plate before her. She stared at the door with an expression of desperate hope. That's her spot, the nurse told me with a professional smile. She always sits there. She waits for her children to visit. And do they? The nurse looked down. They came once 6 months ago, the day they checked her in. I approached the woman. I smiled gently. Hello, my name is Eleanor. She looked at me with glassy, unfocused eyes. Are you my daughter? No, ma'am, but if you like, I can keep you company for a while. I sat with her. Valerie called impatiently from the doorway. But I didn't move. This woman told me about her children, about how they had convinced her she would be better off there, about how they promised to visit every week. But they're busy, she told me with a sad smile. They have their lives. I understand. When I left that home, I told Valerie, I'm not going to any of these places. She stopped dead in her tracks. I'm sorry. I said, I'm not going to a nursing home. I would rather die alone on the street than end up like that woman, waiting for visits that never come. Valerie gripped the steering wheel, so tightly her knuckles turned white. Eleanor, you're being very dramatic. No, I'm being realistic. And more importantly, I'm being clear. I am not leaving. The ride back was silent, a heavy, threatening silence. When we arrived at the house, Valerie went straight to her room. I heard her talking on the phone, her voice agitated. Stephen, your mom is being difficult. I don't know what to do with her anymore. That night, I wrote in my notebook, September 7th, visited 3 homes. Saw the same thing in all of them. Loneliness disguised as comfort. Told Valerie I won't go. I know this is going to get worse, but I've made my decision. If they want to get rid of me, they're going to have to try harder. And at the bottom of the page, I added, Megan told me be patient. That karma always comes around. That justice is sometimes slow, but it never fails. I hope she's right. I closed the notebook. I turned off the light. And for the first time in months, I slept peacefully. Because I knew that even though I was alone in that house, I was no longer defenseless. I had proof. I had Megan. And above all, I had something Valerie had underestimated. Dignity. Things changed after that day. I was no longer invisible. Now I was a visible problem. Valerie stopped pretending. There were no more forced smiles or sweet-voiced Mom S. Now she spoke to me with a coldness that cut. Eleanor, could you not leave your things in the living room? Eleanor, the children need silence to study. Could you watch TV with headphones? Eleanor, I need you to understand that this house has rules. Stephen looked the other way, always busy, always avoiding me. I continued following Megan's instructions to the letter. Document. Write it down. Stay firm. But I won't lie to you. There were days when I wanted to give up. Days when I thought maybe it was just easier to leave, to disappear, to stop being a bother. Until the day came that changed everything. It was mid-October, a Thursday. I remember because it was my granddaughter Sarah's birthday. She was turning 8. I had been preparing her gift for weeks. Knitting her a pink sweater, her favorite color, stitch by stitch, with all my love, with all the time I had locked in my room. That morning, I went downstairs early. I wanted to make Sarah's favorite breakfast, pancakes with syrup and strawberries. I wanted it to be a special day for her. I walked into the kitchen and found Valerie making coffee. Good morning. She barely looked at me. Morning. I thought I would make pancakes for Sarah. It's her birthday. I know. I'm her mother. I know. I just want. Eleanor. She interrupted me, setting her mug on the counter with a thud. I need to talk to you. Something in her tone put me on high alert. Tell me. Stephen and I have been talking, and we think, no, we are sure, that the best thing is for you to leave this house. The air stuck in my lungs. Are you kicking me out? Don't look at it like that. Look at it as an opportunity. You still have time to rebuild your life. You can rent an apartment, travel, do whatever you want. I sold my house to come here. That was your decision. Nobody forced you. Stephen asked me to. Stephen is very noble. Too noble. But I have to think about my children, about my marriage. And frankly, your presence here is affecting the family dynamic. I am his family. Valerie laughed, a dry, humorless sound. No, Eleanor, you are my husband's mother, nothing more. And that doesn't give you the right to invade my space, my marriage, my life. Invade? Yes, invade, because that's what you do. You're here all the time, in the living room, in the kitchen. The kids can't even breathe without you want to give your opinion or help. I need you to understand that you are no longer needed here. Every word was a slap. Does Stephen know you're saying this to me? It was his idea. A lie. I saw in her eyes it was a lie. I want to talk to my son. He's working. And anyway, we've already made the decision. You have until the end of the month to find another place. And what if I don't leave? Valerie looked at me with a coldness that chilled me to the bone. Then we will have to take more drastic measures. She left the kitchen, leaving me standing there, shaking with rage and pain. I didn't make the pancakes. I went upstairs to my room. I locked the door. And I called Megan. I can't take any more. They're kicking me out. Calm down, Eleanor. Breathe. Tell me exactly what happened. I told her everything, word for word. Megan was silent for a moment. Perfect. Perfect? How can this be perfect? Because now we have a direct threat. Eleanor, I want you to do something for me. When Stephen gets home, ask him to talk to you. And when he does, Record with your phone discreetly. I need to hear what he says. I don't know if I can. Eleanor, listen to me. This isn't just about you anymore. It's about all the elderly women who are suffering abuse in silence. You have a chance to put a stop to this. But I need you to be brave one more time. Can you do that? I closed my eyes. I thought of my mother, my grandmother, all the women in my family who swallow their humiliations in silence. Yes, I can do it. Stephen arrived home at 7. I waited for him in the living room with my phone in my sweater pocket, recording. Mom, do you need something? I need to talk to you. It's not a good time. I'm tired. Stephen, please. 5 minutes. He sighed and sat in the armchair across from me. What do you want to talk about? Valerie told me this morning that I have to leave the house. He looked away. Mom, is it true? Are you kicking me out? I'm not kicking you out, but yes, I do think it would be better if you found your own space. I sold my house to come here because you asked me to, and I'm grateful, but things have changed. Valerie doesn't feel comfortable anymore, and I have to think about my marriage. And you don't have to think about your mother. Mom, don't be dramatic. I'm not abandoning you. I'm just asking you to live somewhere else. I'll help you financially. You can rent something nearby. We'll still see each other. Like you visited that woman in the home once every 6 months? That's not fair. You know what's not fair, Stephen? That you promised me you would always take care of me. That the day of your father's funeral, you hugged me crying and said, Mom, you will never be alone. I will always be with you. Do you remember that? I saw his jaw tremble. Mom, I didn't say I would have you in my house for my entire life. No, but you said I wouldn't be alone. And now you're leaving me alone. You're not my responsibility anymore. Those words came out of his mouth like a gunshot. I fell silent, staring at him. This man who had been my baby, my child, my reason for living for so many years. This man who now saw me as a burden. I understand, I said finally, with a calm I didn't know I possessed. I am not your responsibility anymore. But one day, Stephen, when your children grow up and do the same thing to you, you're going to remember this conversation. Mom, don't say that. It's not a curse. It's life. You reap what you sow. I stood up. I will stay until the end of the month, as Valerie asked. After that, you'll have the house to yourselves, without any burdens. Stephen opened his mouth to say something, but I was already climbing the stairs. I went into my room. I closed the door. I took out my phone and stopped the recording. I sent the audio file to Megan. Her reply came half an hour later. Eleanor, this is pure gold. You just gave me everything I need. Now comes the hard part. I need you to hold on until Christmas. Why until Christmas? Because if they're going to kick you out, they'll probably do it before the holidays. And if that happens, I want to be ready. Trust me, I still wonder if I did the right thing. What about you? What would you have done in my place? The days that followed were the hardest of my life. Valerie no longer spoke to me. The children avoided me. Stephen came home late and locked himself in his study. I became a ghost. But I kept documenting. I kept writing. I kept recording. One day, I found a note on my pillow. Remember, you have until October 31st to leave. We don't want problems. It wasn't signed, but I recognized Valerie's handwriting. I wrote in my notebook, October 22nd. Found a threatening note. They don't even have the courage to say it to my face anymore. On October 26th, Valerie hosted a dinner party with her friends. She didn't invite me, but I heard everything from my room. The laughter, the clinking of glasses, the music, and then I heard my name. And your mother-in-law? Oh, don't get me started. It's a horrible situation. The poor thing doesn't understand that it's time for her to go. She's clinging to this house as if it were hers. And what does Stephen say? Stephen is a sweetheart, but he's too noble. Sometimes he needs someone to make the hard decisions for him. Laughter. My mother-in-law was a problem too, until we convinced her to go live with my sister-in-law. Best decision ever. Exactly. At a certain age, parents have to understand that they've already served their purpose. More laughter, more wine. I sat on my bed in the dark, listening to them discuss me as if I were a piece of old furniture. I picked up my phone and wrote to Megan, "I can't take it anymore. I need to get out of here." "Hold on, Eleanor, just a little longer. Christmas is almost here, and I promise you at Christmas, everything will change." November arrived. On the first of the month, Valerie knocked on my door at 7 in the morning. "Eleanor, we need you to vacate the room today." "You said until the end of the month." I changed my mind. "We need this room to set up an office for Stephen. If you can't leave the house, you can at least go to a hotel while you look for an apartment." "A hotel? Stephen will give you money. Don't worry." It wasn't a request. It was an order. I started packing my bags, hands shaking. I folded my clothes. I put away my books and photographs. And then I found something I had forgotten, the photograph, that old Christmas photograph. My little son hugging me, smiling, on the back, in his childhood handwriting. "Mommy, I love you so much. You are the best mommy in the world." I broke down. I cried like I hadn't cried in years. And in that moment, I grabbed my phone and called Megan. "They're kicking me out today. I can't wait until Christmas." "They are not kicking you out. Refuse. It's your right. And if they call the police, let them. I have everything documented. Eleanor, trust me. Do not leave that house. Not without a fight." I took a deep breath. I went downstairs with my suitcases. Valerie was in the living room, waiting. "Are you ready?" "I'm not leaving." "I'm sorry." I said I am not leaving. This is my son's house, and until he asks me to leave, look at me in the eyes, I am not moving from here. Valerie stood up, her face transformed. The mask was gone. "Listen to me carefully, you pathetic old woman. This is my house, and you are going to get out of here today, even if I have to call the police." "Call them?" She froze. "What did you say?" I said call the police. "I want it on record that you are throwing me out onto the street." Valerie took out her phone, but before she could dial, Stephen walked in. "What is going on here?" "Your mother refuses to leave." Stephen looked at me, and for a second, just 1 second, I saw the little boy from the photograph. But then his gaze hardened. "Mom, please don't make this any harder. You have to ask me, son, not her. You. I'm asking you. Leave." Those 2 words, leave, pierced my soul. I picked up my suitcases. I walked to the door. And before I left, I turned around. "One day, you are going to regret this, Stephen. And when that day comes, I hope you find someone more compassionate than you were to me." I closed the door and left. I called Megan from a coffee shop. They kicked me out. I know. The camera recorded everything. What do you do now? Now you rest, and we prepare the next step. And Christmas? Megan was silent for a moment. Then I heard a smile in her voice. "Christmas is going to be unforgettable. I promise you." I stayed in a modest hotel downtown, a small room with a single bed, a tiny bathroom, and a window overlooking an alley. Nothing of mine, nothing familiar, just me and my suitcases. The first night, I couldn't sleep. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the white walls, feeling the weight of silence. How had I gotten here? How had I gone from having my own home, a family, a life, to being alone in a hotel room at 65? I picked up my phone. I looked at the screen. No messages from Stephen. No calls. Nothing. It was as if I had never existed. Megan came to see me the next day. She arrived with coffee and pastries. She sat with me on the only chair in the room. "How are you?" "I don't know." And it was the truth. I didn't know if I was sad, furious, lost, or liberated. I felt everything at once. "Eleanor, I know this hurts, but I want you to know something. What you're living through is not your fault. None of this is your fault." "Then why do I feel so guilty?"